Side-by-sides are now coming straight from the factory with high horsepower turboed engines, some of which are nearing the 200 horsepower mark. There are definitely benefits to having a big horsepower machine, especially when it comes to the dunes. But do you need all that horsepower? That's the question we're going to try to answer today. When Kawasaki introduced the KRX in October, some people were immediately wondering why they didn't come to market with a 200 horsepower plus machine. The same can be said for when Honda released both the Talon X and the Talon R, and with Yamaha and their YXZ. With Can-Am and Polaris releasing sport models with nearly 200 horsepower, why would these Japanese manufacturers release a sport machine with nowhere near the horsepower coming from their North American counterparts? The likely answer is that market research led them to release machines in the 100 to 115 horsepower range. And while you may not see as many Talons, KRXs, and YXZs on the trail or in the dunes as you do X3s or Razors, they're definitely growing in popularity, with major aftermarket brands developing parts and accessories for them as well. Before we get to a few of the reasons why the market demands may have led them to comparatively lower horsepower machines, let's take a look at some of the benefits of the turbos and get a better understanding of why people want them. The obvious and biggest reason why people want a turbo machine is power. From dune riding to desert racing, having the ability to get out of the corners and up the dunes faster can be a huge benefit. In the dunes, there's simply no substitute for power. From carving bowls to hill climbs and drags, the dunes experience is just plain better when you have more power. Sure, you can have a blast at Glamis within an NA machine, but you likely won't be climbing China Wall or winning a race up Oldsmobile Hill. As for desert racing or very aggressive trail riding, the benefit of extra power is undeniable as well. Some of these machines are pushing 100 miles per hour on the stock engine and are getting there quick. There's no denying you'll get up and go faster on a turbo machine. Another reason people are buying turboed machines is the manufacturers are putting their best specs on those. A great example is the new Polaris Razor Pro XP. The Pro XP is Polaris's premier machine and comes straight from the factory with 181 horsepower. On top of the horsepower, you'll find options and specs that just aren't available on their lower horsepower models, including better seats, steering wheel controls, and their new lay-flat rear seats available on the Pro XP. Can-Am has taken a similar approach with their 195 horsepower RR models. For example, the 72-inch X3 RS Turbo R comes with 172 horsepower and Fox Podium 2.5s with up to 22 inches of suspension travel, while the 72-inch X3 XRS Turbo RR comes with 195 horsepower and Fox Podium 3.0s with up to 24 inches of suspension travel. In short, both Polaris and Can-Am offer better specs and more options on their higher horsepower models. With all of that said, you do have to wonder why, if the best North American manufacturers have to offer are high horsepower machines, what are the three major manufacturers from Japan, Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, doing coming out with comparatively low horsepower? Like I said in the beginning, the likely reason why is that the market demands it. So let's take a look at why there may be more demand for NA machines than there are for high horsepower machines. Number one is riding style. While there are thousands of people across the globe who love the dunes and need the extra horsepower, it's my bet that there is a much larger number of people who buy side-by-sides for exploring mountains and desert trails, or who enjoy slow-paced technical riding where horsepower is not necessary but nice if you got it. Having spent plenty of time in the mountains in Utah and Arizona, and plenty more in the rocks in both states, the situations in which you need that extra horsepower are limited. A great example of this is at a recent event in Sand Hollow, Utah. While there were plenty of turboed machines, machines like the KRX and Talon were doing everything the other machines did, and in many cases making it look easy. Number two is cost. Another driver in the demand for NA machines is the cost with turbo machines being more expensive than their NA brothers. As an example, the Polaris Razor XP 1000 has a base MSRP of $18,600, while its brother, the Razor XP Turbo, has a base MSRP of $21,000. Many consumers would have to ask themselves if the extra power is worth the extra $2,400. If you're a dune guy, put yourself in the shoes of a Midwestern trail rider and ask yourself if having 168 horsepower provides a meaningful benefit on the tight trails you ride every weekend over the 110 horsepower you get on a similar but cheaper model. My bet is the answer is no. And while all side-by-side manufacturers are very tight-lipped about the actual sales numbers, I imagine that through their research the Japanese manufacturers agree with me and also discover that the answer is no. Last is geography. Geography also plays a big role in what machines people buy. We did a poll on our YouTube channel where we asked people if they owned a turbo or an NA machine. With nearly 100 votes, 68% said that they owned an NA machine. We also asked people why they did or did not choose a turbo. And the answer that stood out the most to me was this from a user, and I forget his name, I think it was Ed. But turbos and trees are a really bad mix. Going fast where I ride is not conducive to a long life for me or my machine. I thought that was an interesting answer. Although I wouldn't put myself in this group, because personally I like myself some hot, nasty American speed, I thought this comment likely sums up a lot of people's feelings. With all that said, there's definitely benefits to going with the turbo machine. If you want to go fast in the desert or hit the dunes, there's no substitute for the horsepower. Whether it's the Turbo RR model from Can-Am, a Razor Pro XP, or even adding a turbo to a YXZ, Talon, or soon a KRX. Choose the machine that fits best for you, and if you want to add the horsepower, do it. If your riding style is mountain trails, exploring the desert, and maybe the occasional dune trip, you'd likely be very happy with a naturally aspirated machine. Might even have a little extra change in your pocket too. So what are your thoughts? Is the juice worth the squeeze on the turbo? Share them in the comments below so we can chat about it there. I know myself and the guys are interested in hearing what you have to say. Hey, before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you get notified when we upload a new video. Also, check out our parts and accessories at our website, which is derangedoffroad.com, and check us out on Facebook as well. Thanks for watching. Ride safe, pack out what you pack in, and we'll see you on the next one.